Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got episode 216 today, I believe it is.
It's the Simpsons episode. Talking about a show that goes on and on and on and on. It's Springfield, Illinois.
Is that what the Simpsons are from? Springfield, Illinois? It says Springfield, but it doesn't specify.
They've never said which it is. And when the movie came out, it premiered, the world premiere actually was in Springfield, Vermont. We do have a Springfield here. And so all the Springfields competed against each other. But it just kind of strikes me as a mid-American show, and you can't get much more mid-American than Illinois.
Right, yeah. There was one episode that they had a map, and they went to point. It says, I'm going to, so this is where we live. And right when they went to point, somebody walked in front of the camera and blocked off where they were pointing. And so that's been the running joke. So the Simpsons episode, okay. So
yeah, because it's clearly, although the movie debuted here in Vermont, it's clearly not a Vermont show.
Right. That's kind of funny. So anyway, a ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. Facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Come over on Facebook and join a discussion over there. And if you'd like to support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/digitaltodice. All right, now here in episode 216, what we're going to do is we're going to have a kind of a state of the channel 2024. We've done the campfire chats in the past and a few other things like that, but we just want to get everyone caught up here on what's going on as we approach. You know, today is actually the 28th. We got February 29th coming up, so this is a leap year, right?
Yeah, Sadie Hawkins Day.
Is that what it is?
That's tomorrow is Sadie Hawkins Day. It's up until a few years ago, it was the one day where it was acceptable for a woman to ask a man out. One day every 4 years.
Interesting.
And of course, if your birthday falls on February 29th, technically you only have a birthday once every 4 years. So they've already trotted out the pictures of the 100-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Who turns 25.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She was finally, 75, old enough to drink or whatever. If your birthday actually falls on February 29th, technically it's March 1st.
Oh, is that how they do it? They go.
So that's how they do it.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yes. Yeah, I was going to say, if you're on your birthday, what do you do here? I don't know if I knew anybody that had a February 29th birthday growing up.
No, I don't.
I'm not 100% sure if I did. But anyway, yeah, we're going to talk about the state of the channel and even what's going on with our own YouTube channels as well. So we get a chance to kind of catch up. We drop hints every now and then, and we talk a little bit every now and then on the show and on our own channels. But now we're going to have a chance to really kind of air it out and get you caught up on what's happening. Before we do that, though, we should talk about what we're playing, right?
Yes.
All righty. Why don't you lead us off?
I, offline, have been doing the 85 NBA final.
You've been having a good time with that.
Yeah, I didn't have such a good time yesterday, but game one was awesome. Celtic, I forgot to reverse the team. So the Lakers are the home team in this as opposed to the Celtics. And if you remember in real life, the Celtics won game one by 35 points, Memorial Day Massacre of 1985. Then the Lakers took the next 4 out of 5. So in my series in game one in Los Angeles at the Fabulous Forum in Inglewood, the Celtics jump out to a 17-point lead at one point and proceed to blow it.
That happens a lot in basketball, doesn't it? You got a huge lead. It's
more
amazing.
in college than the NBA. I mean, the Lakers are loaded. Let's be honest. I mean, there's a reason why both of those teams were the dominant ones of their era. So at one point, the Celtics were down 7 in the fourth quarter, and with 30 seconds to go, they were down 5. And so, what do you do when you have Larry Legend on your team? Well, he shoots a 3.
Nice
to make it a 2-point lead, and the Celtics are playing a press. They force a turnover. Give it to Larry again. He hits a runner at the buzzer, nice. as would be said on Celtics TV, and or Mike Gorman would say, at the buzzer. And they force overtime, in which they win by 6. So great game. Just so many Hall of Famers there. James Worthy for the Lakers missed one shot from the floor, but was in foul trouble the whole game. So game 1 goes to the Celtics. Tremendous game. Game 2, I played yesterday offline, and the Celtics got spanked. 117-92. It is. Yeah. And so they just, Kareem dumped in 27 and Worthy had 29 or something like that. I mean, Magic hasn't even gotten going yet. And they're just too good. That team should win the series. The next 2 will be in Boston. So that has been a lot of fun. We've talked about Strat basketball before, and if there's one game I think that I really love that doesn't get played a lot on the channel, that would be it. It just feels like basketball to me. You can do whatever you want with it and all that.
You keep saying that you think that's Strat's best game.
I honestly think it's Strat's best game. It doesn't get a lot of love, but I do think it's their best game. There's a topic idea for their point. Let us know in the comments, has there been a player that you've expected great things from and you've never been able to quite get a handle on your tabletop or on the computer? Because for me, that's Larry Bird. He'll get the points, but, in real life, he shot around 50%. And I can't get him above 32, 33. Doesn't really matter what I do. And so, Jack Nicklaus is another one for me, but we can get this. So that would be a good topic at some point. So I've been playing that, loving it. Absolutely loving it. I was surprised with the amount of defense in that series. They smother each other. And they can't, the way that the game mechanic goes about trying to find any shooter, both teams just do a good job of making sure the other team can't shoot. And so although the scores are high, not the Celtics in game 2, you just feel like you're exhausted after playing it. We've both have had games where we went, oh my God, I'm so tired now.
Oh yeah.
And even knowing that game was over, because you were on your way to work yesterday as I'm playing the game, and I knew that the Celtics weren't going to come back, but I was tired by the time that was done, because you could just kind of feel. I mean, the misnomer that basketball's a non-contact sport. Nope, Kareem and Parrish wrestling in the key.
There's absolutely times that I've played these games, whether it's on the computer or on the table here. And you're so into it. You're so into the game, and you feel like you're there. And with every roll or every flip of the card or look at the chart, you just, you're holding your breath, and you're like, can this team hang on? Are we going to come back? And it is, at the end of it, you're like, wow, man, I am emotionally spent. It does happen. So
the first 2 games of that series have been an awful lot of fun. And we'll see what changes when it goes to Boston. I really wish you could roll your own dice. That's about the only thing I could really say about Strat Hoops, is that when it comes time to shoot, whether it's a free throw or that you could roll your own dice. But the game just doesn't sell enough, I'm sure. That's a whole topic right there. Let's see. The 88 baseball replay, mid-May. The folks at ABC are worried that we're going to get a Cleveland-Kansas City ALCS, because about 8 people would watch that. I did the Reds and the Pirates today. Did the Dodgers and the Pirates at the end last week. We'll need to look to see where Pittsburgh finished in real life. The Mets won that division by a mile. Pittsburgh and the Mets are tied. And Pittsburgh walked it off today and had a Gardner game. Went 12. Somebody in the 7th inning says, I have an over-under on this for 11.5.
Oh.
We were talking about gambling in it, and he would have hit the over. So a Junior Ortiz walk-off single. Was nice. That so we always want teams in replays to kind of be a surprise. I mean, yeah, you it's kind of like rooting for the kid in school who just wasn't a super student in that, but he might have been, the player off the bench to hit the winning goal or the winning basket or whatever. You just felt good about that. And the Pirates are kind of that way in this replay. Not sure how long they're going to hang in there with the Mets. I'm not even sure they've played yet. But right now, the Getting's pretty good, and that's a fun team to handle.
Oh, nice.
So let's see. What else have I been doing that's sports-related? That's been pretty much about it. as far as sports goes. But it's been fun. We get 3 games, and when I talk about my channel, 3 games in for the 88 replay, and just kind of motor around along with it.
I'm trying to think what I've been playing. I've been doing a lot of working. Holy cow! The playoffs are here, and I think I'm going 14 or 15 days now without a day off. And I actually sometimes will consider a day off 3 hours of work. I will like today I had about 3 hours of work between cleaning up the mess from last night and and this and that and the other. So it was like 3 hours today. I consider this a day off, 3 hours of work. I do, But the next time, I don't know when the next time is. I'm going to have an entire day where I'm either A, not at a rink, or B, not on the computer doing something. It's not in the forecast, as of yet, because every single day for the next 5 days I have playoffs up in New Hampshire, plus my regular job.
Now, 2 of the 3 teams that you call games for made the playoffs, right? The top level did or did not?
Right. Top level's hanging on. If they go on the road for 5 out of 6 games, and they're playing the better teams. So if they get smoked on the road and the team below them gets hot, they could fall into last place and not make the playoffs.
Okay.
But right now they're in the playoffs. They got a couple of points lead. I think they play the team behind them at home, which would be a huge 4-point swing right there. But But again, they have to. That other team could theoretically catch them if they go on a losing streak at the end of the season. So 2 out of the 3 teams have made the playoffs. Yeah, playoffs are fun. It just ramps up everything. It's a little more tense, and it's just really fun to do. All right, so what have I been playing on my channel? The only thing I've really played was I played this old game from 1961, I think it was called, Straight Away. It's a racing game.
How accurate is it?
It used to be called Hug the Rails or Hugging the Rails, and they remade the game. Because I did a little research on this thing. It's basically just a circular track. It almost looks like a horse racing track. And you
have to say with that name, I bet it was a horse racing game.
Yeah, and it's 6 metal cars, and there's 6 different colors, and you have a single wooden die that you roll 1 to 6, and that's what you move your car with. The intriguing thing about it is there's something that comes in the game. It's called a lane indicator is what I think it's called. What it is, it kind of looks like either a magnifying glass or a lollipop, one of the two.
Okay.
So picture a magnifying glass, if you will. Inside the lens of the magnifying glass are 6 colored balls, if you will. And you shake the magnifying glass and then tip it up, and all the balls fall into the handle of the magnifying glass.
Now, is that like a water or a gel or some sort of liquid?
No. It's just a plastic clear thing, but it looks like it looks like a magnifying glass. And the idea is that you shake it up after each round, and the balls fall into the handle of it, and that's the order that you roll for that. It's called a spurt. That particular spurt. So that way there, it's not always the front guy, the back guy. So when you get done rolling for everybody, you shake it up, as Taylor Swift would say, and you lift it up, and they fall into order, and you got a fresh order every time of who's going to go first. And sometimes it's better to not go first if you're kind of surrounded and you got nowhere to go. Then you've wasted a turn. So sometimes it's better to go last. If you're in the back of the pack, so or in the middle of the pack. But anyway, it was fun. It's just it has many laps as you want. I think I did 3.
You did 3. I saw that on the board that there was up to 5.
Yeah, you could. Again, you could go as many as you want. But the idea is that everyone gets a car, and you roll that wooden die, and you move either 1 through 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 spaces. That includes left and right. And you just go around the track, and it's the simplest game to play, and it's really kind of fun. And that lane indicator thing is fun because you shake it up, and who's going to roll first, and and that comes into play too, because again, you might be able to jump in front and cut somebody off. Now they can't get around you. It is the simplest of games to play. Again, I think it was back in the '60s they come out with this, and Hugging the Rails, which I think was the predecessor, might have been out even earlier than that. I don't know why. I was in my closet the other day. I said, I'm going to play this. And I set it up on a table, and I played 3 laps, and I had a blast with it. It just was really,
awesome.
really fun. Yeah, it was kind of simple fun.
Someone at one point bought me a game for Steam that was Roman chariot racing. That was very similar to that.
Yeah.
And of course, you could get killed doing it. That was the whole point of that. But yeah, very similar.
Those games are almost sometimes the funnest, where it's like you roll a die and you move your car. That's it. There's nothing else to it. There's no other thises or that's, or it's just roll the dice and move your vehicle. And everyone takes a turn going. Well, I shouldn't say everyone takes a turn going first, because it's all random chance every single round, whether you go first, second, or last.
Right.
And so it's just kind of it was really fun to play. And every now and then I break it out, and it's just kind of fun. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I was playing Straight Away, it was called, and so I played a little bit of that. I actually, instead of playing, what I've actually been doing is I've been finally reworking the APA hockey manual. And I've been talking about that a little bit, to a point where I'm just sitting down with it and I'm reading it and I'm making my notes is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that need to be explained a little bit better or with more detail. Some things are fine and make perfect sense, and I didn't really touch anything. But there's other things that need some clarification. There's other things that make no sense as it's written, so I try to make sense of it. And there's other things that are just buried in the rule book, and when you need to find it, you don't know where it is. For example, a penalty shot. It's in there, but if you get a penalty shot in the game, good luck finding it. Really, good luck finding where the penalty shot rules are written, because it doesn't have its own little section where it says, "Hey, here's the penalty shot." It's written in with something else. So I pulled that out, and I wrote the penalty shot rules out, and I'm going to put it under penalty shot. What an incredible idea, right?
Yes.
There's a few other things. I want to clarify the clearing of the puck. So if you get a shot by the highest shot frequency, check clear, I explain exactly what that is and write it out in layman terms. Roll 2d6. If that number is higher than the defenseman combined clearing rating, the shot will continue. If it's tied or less than the defensive clearing rating, the defenseman clear the puck away and it's tied up. That's how it should be written, and it wasn't written that way. So I do things. I'm doing things like that. So I'm going through the whole rule. And another thing I found right in the beginning of the rule book that I didn't even realize: 2 consecutive passes while you're shorthanded will check off a time box. Never do that. I've been playing this game for years, and I never knew that, because I glossed right over it, because it just kind of was mixed in with something else, and it was just easy to gloss over. So I'm pulling out all these things that I'm finding, and I'm trying to, give them their own paragraph or their own, whatever. And things like penalty shot, that's important to know. That time thing shorthanded, that's something you should know. I don't play it that way because I never realized it. So I'm pulling out all these things, and I'm trying to just make sense of it and organize it. So if you were to read my rule book, things would make a little bit more sense, and things would stand out more too. I'm also including, what I do for penalties, assists, and ODAI. So it's kind of like the Dave way of playing. And again, I didn't come up with a lot of these things. They're from some other people, but I've incorporated them into my game. So I'm really working the APA manual. I really like the game. It just needs some love. You need the edges need polishing, and things like that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm also
you should do some sort of seminar or web series on how to properly write an instruction book. Just because of the way you play and the way that you read and the way that you process information, you have a good idea of what, of how things should be laid out. And that because a lot of the people, because we're in this era where a lot of people create games and create all sorts of new games, they may not be writers to begin with and don't know. It's just like a cookbook. They might know how to put all the things together, but may not understand what would trip you up. I think I did
a video on that one time, what goes into I don't want to say the perfect game, but designing the perfect game. And I had some of the developers say that they watched that video and were taking notes on what I was saying, and things like example dice rolls. And it's really kind of important to highlight everything that can happen in your game.
Yeah, just specifically, spell out.
Strat does a great job with that, especially with their hockey and their baseball, where it's just like, okay, roll the dice. Here's what can happen. if you get this result, this is what it means. If you get this result, this is what it means. And a lot of times in some of these other games, now the APA rulebook does spell out every potential roll. Okay, so I'll give it to them that they do spell out what's supposed to happen. How they word it could be worded a heck of a lot better. But there's some games that I read the directions and instead of going over every single thing, and I get sometimes you can't go over every single thing, but if
there are things that are going to slip your mind, absolutely.
Yeah, but if something's different enough, so you can't just give a couple examples like, okay, if this happens, here's the example of how to play it, and if this happens, here's the example of how to play it. The other 3 or 4 things that could happen are very different than these 2 things, so you really do need to spell it out.
And people want to play more complex games. And so to have that spelled out, you sit there and go, okay, I saw one of us show off X or our Red Sox fans show off Y or whatever. And you want to be able to, A, you've bought it, and B, you don't want to get frustrated. I honestly think, you can go back and watch what you did, but if you just specifically with, here's how I would think that the best way to lay out an instruction manual is, and do that, because again, not everyone's a writer.
Yeah. There's a couple things that even in the Downey games rulebook that drove me nuts because, when they're trying to explain, all right, so it's the offense is an A and the other team's defense is an F, and here's how you're going to, get the result, and then you're going to subtract 1 to get this. There's a couple times in the Downey examples, for example, that they would say, okay, so after you calculate this and this, your final result is D, let's say. Now, the adjustment for the other team is 0, so there's no adjustment. That doesn't do me any good. It's quite obvious a 0 means no adjustment.
Right.
You need to put in a -1 adjustment and a +1 adjustment so I know I'm going in the right direction with my letters. Mm-hmm. Putting in, okay, here there's no adjustment. It doesn't do me any good. There was another game, too, that I played, and I won't say who it was from, and they did the same thing. It's like, okay, here's this, and so it's whatever the result was, and it's like, no adjustment, so just look here. No, put in the adjustment. I want to know if I'm supposed to go forward or backward, depending on where the adjustment is. So don't ever put in, if you're going, making adjustments in a game, whether it's numbers or letters or whatever it is, never put in 0 adjustment, because that will not help anybody figure out if they're doing it right. Just say, if it's 0 adjustment, there's no adjustment. However, if a team is -1 or -5 or +8, whatever it is, show that so we know what it is. Give us some good examples too. So yeah, I'm kind of a stickler on that because my thing wrong, as you know, is I never assume anything.
Right.
And that's kind of half my problem is that a lot of instructions are written where, common sense says this is what you should do. I won't read it that way. Why should I assume I'm looking at...
But that isn't a problem because not everyone is a full expert on whatever sport they pull out. I mean, yes, in baseball, I could, assume just because I've watched enough of it, but let's say a soccer or something like that, or where you're not really super nuanced with the rules. No, you shouldn't assume that everyone that plays your game is going to be an expert or a huge fan of whatever it is.
The one of the things that does drive me nuts is when it says, okay, check this. And am I re-rolling or am I using the dice that's on the table? Because I've played both types of games where you roll once and that's the dice roll you use for everything. Don't touch anything. Okay, fine. But there's other games where you're supposed to re-roll to check something. And it's like, I need you to spell that out. And that's one thing we mentioned to Stone Cold Hockey. Okay? And he modified that in the rule book when he said, okay, re-roll to get this. You know what I mean? And that's all you needed to say. It's just re-roll because otherwise I didn't know if I'm supposed to leave that on the table or not, that first dice roll. And once he said that, it clarified everything, So there's things like that that, and again, I just don't assume anything. And I want to be absolutely sure that if A, then B, I just want to make sure about that. So I like a highly detailed rule book, so I don't walk away with any questions, and I want to know exactly what's going on. But anyway, getting back to the APA manual, so I've been kind of taking that on as a pet project, partly for myself, because again, I don't know the penalty shot procedure by heart because I don't get many of them. But if I had to find it, I would have to stop what I'm doing and read the rule book from cover to cover till I stumbled on it. So I want to go back in and pull out all those little things that are mixed in there. And so, again, penalty shot, okay, here's penalty shot. I pulled it out, now I know where it is. Okay, now what about, shorthanded shots? Okay, shorthanded, here's this. What about goalie pull? Here's the goalie pull. You know what I mean? So I want to give everything its own section and really kind of highlight what's going on. On top of that, I really want to get back to the rare plays. And that's one thing that people are bringing up about Hockey Bones, how it's just kind of straightforward and this and that. It's like, well, I guess you're kind of right. There's no rare plays in Hockey Bones that I know of. It's a straightforward hockey game. It's really fun to play, but it's different enough from APA that I like them both. And so with the APA hockey, I cut out the rare plays because I just didn't care for them. I was like, these are just, they didn't do anything for me.
We've talked about that before. They really, for me, they're just really hit or miss.
Yeah, I mean, some things are just like, a pass and a shot, whatever. I mean, I get there's only 5 or 6 outcomes you can really get in a hockey game when, so even the rare plays at some point got to boil down to, one of the 5 or 6 options in the game. I get that. But how you do it and make it sound exciting, So I've been rewriting those so I have my own rare plays, and I put it out to the community to get their feedback. Like, well, what are some rare plays in hockey that we could put into the game? And after sifting through a bunch of the, haha, I'm a comedian posts, which right. You're just gonna get, so you know what's coming. There was a good 15 to 20% of people that actually put some thought into it and gave me some pretty good ideas actually, and some I'll use as they wrote it, and some gave me a kind of a neat idea on what to do for a rare play. So I'm coming up with my own rare play chart. Thanks to the help of the community, I'm going to put that in because I do like my rare plays. And we've talked about this before, and I think we talked about this yesterday. How in season ticket, Ron Say got a inside the park home run. I mean, that's fantastic. Now what if that was hockey? What if you had a guy in hockey that was had 1 goal and no goals on the year, and he has no shot rating, but on a rare play he managed to score. His shot from the point on the rare play hit a defenseman in the leg and ricocheted in, and he got his first goal of the year and the only goal of the year because it came on a rare play. And same with the home run. You get a rare play where, like I say gets an inside the park home run. So I think that adds flavor to the game when you can put that stuff in there. So I need to put that in. I need to limit the amount of rare plays so it doesn't happen all the time. But I want to put some fun things in there. Again, when you play the APA hockey game, there's a lot of things. It's a straightforward game, but there's a lot of things that don't happen that happen in real hockey. The goalie tries to clear the puck out, fans on it, and it's intercepted by the other team. And the guy has an open net to try to shoot at it. So we're going to roll the dice to see if he puts it in the net. Things like that that happen in hockey games that are fun and that are exciting, but they're not part of
bad line changes.
Someone brought that up, like the second period bad line change or something like that. And that leads to an odd man rush or something like that. Absolutely. Defensemen collide together. Puck sits there. Now we have a breakaway. Things like that happen in hockey games, but you can't always write that into the game, but you can write it into a rare play, because it is rare. So I'm working on the APA hockey manual and all the rare plays, and I threw this out on a video last night, and I got some really good feedback on some things to add to that. So I'm going to continue working on those 2 things there. So instead of playing right now, which I haven't had a chance to sit down and do anything because I've been,
you've been really busy.
Yeah, going back and forth to the rink. But I can bring notes to the rink and sit there between periods and kind of make some notes on some things. So that's what I've been doing with that. So anyway, all right. So shall we talk a little bit about what's going on with the podcast here and with our channels? Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first of all, First of boy, that sounded good. First of all,
First of all.
first of all. Whew, is it the first of off?
The first of off was actually off.
Is it the 1st of May or the 1st of off? Holy cow! Whew, that's how tired I've been lately. First of all, I like the direction the channel's been going here. The podcast has been going.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, we kind of started off with just us talking, and then we worked in some guests. Now we've worked in a lot of community feedback, and that has worked out really well. Now, sometimes we'll have somebody on from the community, and we'll talk about, somebody will bring up the idea, and it's like, okay, well, why don't you come on and talk about that idea with us, And we've done that, and that's been fun. And other times we've just taken feedback, and we say, okay, this is a great idea. We go into our Discord, and we ask our Patreons, like, okay, so guys, what do you think, And we get their feedback. And then other times we go into our Facebook group and Dave Little's Facebook group, the Sports Simulations group, and we throw out a question. And sometimes even on Delphi, we'll go to Delphi forums and we'll throw out a question, and we'll kind of gauge the community and see what they think about things. And what's great about that? Those are some of my favorite shows, Ron. When we get all the feedback and we can like the Black Friday, what'd you buy?
Yeah, what'd you buy?
That's so fun. What did everybody get? And we can kind of compare, what we got to what they got, and what was the hot item this year? You know what I mean? Things like that. But when we do a topic, and we did one a couple of shows ago, and we get the feedback, inevitably, and I said that correctly this time, inevitably.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we'll get some feedback that just comes out of left field. That's not where I was going with this, but but it's so interesting that someone would come up with that. I'm like, holy cow, yeah, I wasn't thinking that at all, because I was kind of thinking like this, but then someone else thought like that, and that one makes for interesting discussion, because again, you don't know who's playing what, how they're playing what their thinking is, and the whole bit, and people in the community will come up with some things that you just never even considered.
Yeah, I mean, because everyone takes a different approach to how they play, regardless of what it is. And I mean, for instance, we're not huge draft league people. Neither one of us have done that. There's a Steve Tate started a pretty big action PC draft league for baseball, and there are people who do nothing but draft leagues and rotisserie stuff that we don't necessarily have any idea. Or again, you tend to be more of a short-term project. I tend to be more of a long-term stock replay thing. And while we do a pretty good job of covering those bases, there are, as you said, there are things that we just don't think about that may or may not interest us personally as far as players are concerned, but they're just as valid as what we talk about. And so absolutely, when someone, it was the Saturday night chat that we did a couple years ago, and the question was that you gave was, would you take a championship if you had to be mediocre for the next 5 years or whatever it was? And you could see the split of people whose teams had won a championship and those who hadn't won a championship. It's like, nope, we're going to be we'll be okay. We'll get them when we get them, as opposed to, yeah, it's too bad the dog has to go, but the Lions need to win.
Yeah, that was something I never considered. Being here in Boston, when in the last 20 or 30 years, we've done quite well here with championships between the four major teams. That someone in an area that hadn't won a championship, they'd be like, I would absolutely take the championship this year and then not make the playoffs the next 10. Right. And just to get that championship. And that's something I hadn't really considered. And that was a pretty prevalent thought with a bunch of people. Now, I tend to go back to that question and say, okay, you got your championship. After 5 or 6 years of not making the playoffs, you might want to reevaluate that decision, knowing that the next 10 years you have no chance and you might not even make the playoffs. You might want to rethink that and say, jeepers, do I really want to sell out for that one title? But there was an interesting question. And that's kind of the things that happen when you put it out there. You never know who's thinking what, So I do like, that we've incorporated that every several episodes or so. Again, I like it when me and you, we find a topic in the community. We'll find something that happens, whether it's on Delphi or on Facebook or, somebody in our Discord will say something. And we'll kind of, hey, that's something neat to talk about, or let's revisit that, because again, after 215 shows, and this is 216, there's not a lot we haven't at least touched on.
Right.
Let's face it. And sometimes people kid around about, oh, geez, couldn't find a topic. It's like, well, I invite you to write down 215 completely different topics to talk about,
General rule of thumb is if it's been 2 years since we talked about it, it's fair game to bring it up again, because because we pick up new people all the time. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that surprises me most as in year 5 is that there are still people that come to us and go, I didn't realize, I thought I was the only one that did this.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that people still did this. And what is this game? And so, although we might have talked offline or danced around it on a few shows and said we've done this 4 or 5 times, it's new to some people.
Right. So I like how we do some topics, just me and you. I like how we have guests on that talk about either their game or their book. I like when we just have people on to talk about things in the community, and that's kind of what the show is about. It's about it's about you. It's about the community. It's not the Dave and Ron show. And yeah, we talk about what we're playing, but we inevitably, there's that word again. Get out there and see what's going on out in the wilds in our community. What's happening out there, and let's talk about it. And let's bring everybody together and have a nice little discussion with that. So between the topics that we talk about, getting people on the show for topics, the authors and developers that we've had on, and then just kind of community feedback shows. I like that direction we've been going in, and I think we're going to continue in that direction. Mm-hmm. Again, if anybody has a suggestion of something else they'd like us to add to that menu, then feel free, but I like that that's what's been going on the channel, or the podcast, I should say. The other thing is that we do want to thank all the Patreons who have supported us, and I've noticed that in the last month or so we've lost some Patreons, and I'm kind of interested to know why we lost your support. Did we do something? Did we not do something? How did we lose your support? I know people go through different things, and that's fine. And again, nobody has to support the show. But we'd just like to know why you might have left us. And again, if you want to send us an email or anonymously send us, that's fine. We just want to know if we screwed up somehow. Did we do something that caused you to pull your support for the channel? We're still strong with our Patreons, and they're helping us, pay the bills and keep the podcast, all the past podcasts, which is now 215 podcasts, and Spreaker's loving us, by the way. Every time we had a podcast, we get closer and closer to having to buy the next tier, from Spreaker. Thank you so much,
Please, talk longer, stretch it out.
I know. I don't know if I need to start shrinking the quality of the show so I can get the megabytes down so we don't use too much space on Spreaker. But yeah, so again, we want to thank the Patreons and the people that have left. Just if you could just let us know. And we're not going to be mad either way because we know it's all voluntary. But we'd like to know what we could do to win your support back in the whole bit with the Patreon there. And again, we have the $2 option. So if you think the show is worth 50 cents a show, it's $2 a month. And that's kind of how we bill it. And for $5 a month, you come into the Discord, and that's where all the fun happens, over in the Discord. I have a good time over there, over at the Discord. Some other things. The New Year's Eve show.
That was fun,
that was that couldn't have gone better. Really. I didn't know how it was going to go, but the New Year's Eve show was fantastic. We got some people on that we knew, people that had been on the show before, some people that were never on the show, some people that we talked to but just had never seen their face. Mm-hmm. And I would obviously like to do that again next New Year's, if not New Year's and around New Year's. And I was even thinking about maybe in the middle of the summer, maybe for 5 years, was it start of 5 or the end of 5?
It's the end of 5.
The end of 5 years. Maybe we do that again in August or something like that. July or August. We have another, jump on for 5 or 10 minutes and say hi, on a Saturday night, like a hot Saturday night in July or August, and kind of have our 5-year anniversary show or something like that. Because that was so fun. That's one of those. It's just kind of like an open house. And that was really fun. It's when you have an open house and just kind of open it up and anybody can come by and say hi for a few minutes. And that was so much fun. And the feedback on that was great. So it's something that I want to do that again. And I thought about maybe one in the summer and then one around New Year's again. Let's see how it goes. So that's another thing I want to do is kind of the New Year's thing there. Let me see. Another thing that's been kind of fun here on the channel is when we talk about games and people laugh about how we're their pushers. Where it's like, yes. Oh, great. Now here's another game I got to buy or another game I got to try or here's another season I got to get. But that goes both ways, because we'll get someone that'll email us or post a comment and they'll say, hey, have you tried this game? And, oh, great, now I got to go check out this game myself. So the pushing goes both ways. The community will drop a game on us, and we'll check it out, or we'll find something new, and somebody else will say, hey, you're pushing more games on me. Boy, my wife's going to kill me because now I'm buying more seasons and more games. But, again, that's what the hobby's about. It's part of the hobby is playing. Okay, that's what, obviously that's what we do. But, again, what I'm doing here with the APA Hockey Manual and the Rare Plays for APA, that's almost like unboxing videos, unboxing your games. I mean, waiting for the games to come in and unboxing, that's part of the hobby too. Organizing them is part of the hobby. Rewriting rules for yourself. I don't know if Peter Miller listens to the show, but he's done so many cheat sheets for different games that they appear on the official website that you can download, because he does a great job with kind of doing what I'm doing with the APA Hockey. Is he'll go into a game like Hockey Bones, or I think it was like Solitaire Pro Football, and he'll have like a little cheat sheet and says, okay, heads up, if you're on the power play, here's some things to look out for. And, if you're, with the goalie out, here's this, and don't forget about this. And so he's got a little cheat sheet, and I have that out for reference all the time. It's like, oh, yeah, what do I do again? And instead of having to flip through the manual, I go to Peter Miller's cheat sheet, and there it is. So, things like that, is kind of what we're all here about. It's like, we have people that come out with cheat sheets, score sheets. People come out with some really good score sheets. Sometimes I'll share it. I mean, how many, the APA Excel helpers have I sent out? You
get once a week. You get at least one once a week.
I was getting one a day for a while there.
And now that you've mentioned it again, I bet it will be.
So between the APA Excel spreadsheet and the Hockey Bones helper on Excel, I mean, those just make the games easier to play. And, I mean, rolling dice is fun. Don't get me wrong. I love rolling my dice. But in games like that where you're rolling tons of dice to resolve 24 seconds or 30 seconds, it's kind of neat to have them all up on the board. And
just makes the game play easier.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you can fly through a game with those helpers there. You really can. So again, we push games, people push games on us, and it's just been kind of fun. But, again, being part of this hobby, there's playing, there's organizing, there's, unboxing the games, there's, rewriting manuals, there's writing your own helper sheets, there's putting out score sheets for people to use. So there's a whole bunch of it there that goes along with, it's more than just playing. It really is. There's sharing your stuff with other people. There's asking for help from other people. There's getting mugs with your favorite APA players on it, like Keith Medeiros is doing, which a lot of people...
Did you see that Keith did a mug and it was a father and son? The guy playing, and he had his dad on the mug, so he could, that just is great.
Oh, it's incredible what he's been doing with that. People are really taken to that, so good for him. And it's stuff like that, and it's affordable too. He's not charging you arms and legs for this stuff. He's doing it. He'll make a little bit of money, I would imagine, but I mean, the joy that I'm getting out of my mugs, again, every morning I drink out of my Bobby Orr APA hockey card, and every time I raise it up to take a drink, I see Bobby Orr and I see his APA card, and that makes me feel really good. It really does.
Yeah.
Did you see? Oh, I forget what group it was in on Facebook because I have so many groups I belong to. The APA card organization rack or closet the guy built. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh, I don't know where it was, but it was like a small closet, like a little pantry, and it was just lined with APA cards, like in manila envelopes, and it was all labeled, and everything was like all labeled the whole bit. And Tebow actually wrote in and said that it was amazing. And I said, Tebow, does this give you a headache? Because it was all organized.
Do you see where his wife went in and cleaned up all of his stuff?
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Good for her. And
Yeah.
you are our third, second, and first star of the week this week.
Right. Mrs. Tebow coming through.
Mrs. Tebow, but yeah, I mean, so been good for that. No, I mean, they're playing card size, right? An apple card is
about that. I mean, I think they're a little wider, actually.
okay.
But the guy had a whole closet full, and it was like a horseshoe. You know, he had the rack on the left, the rack in front, and the rack on the right, and you could kind of walk in between them all. So it was like a horseshoe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And but they were all like layered. It was perfect. It was beautiful. It really was, you know. And then so I was ribbing Tebow a little bit, you know, because we saw the Tebow setup, which was it was a flea market. Let's just call it what it was, you know. Now he can find everything.
Episode of Hoarders, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
it was like Sanford and Son out there. It really was, you know. Good for him. He could probably find everything, though. That's the thing, you know. The people that are like disorganized like that know exactly where everything is.
Oh yeah, I remember in high school, you know, you'd run across a teacher with a desk that was just destroyed, and then they would have a sign: "A clean desk is a sign of a sick mind."
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like if you ask that teacher, "Hey, where was last week's test paper?" He could put his hand right on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so good for that. But yeah, so organization is part of it too. So there's a whole bunch of things that come into this hobby aside from just playing the game, and we share those ideas, and we share them here on the show, and people share them with us, and so that's what's been really fun with that too. So we covered, you know, pushing the games on each other, and it's all good fun, you know. We know that when people say, "Gee, thanks," you know, I'm going to be getting divorced because I bought another game or something like that, you know, it's all good fun. I
think by and large, compared to some other hobbies, that this community is very supportive of each other. At least the people that listen to us. There isn't a competition for, which is interesting because it's sports. The whole point is competition, wins and losses, and that. But by and large, people are very supportive of each other. And if you say, as long as you don't shove something down someone else's throat, you know, what about A, B, or C? You know, I think some of that has to do with the fact that most of the game developers are pretty much, you know, it's mom and pop operations.
The big thing I think with the community is that, you know, there's a lot of older people in the community, and they're kind of set in their ways, and they like things their way, and you know, they think that, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, but I think if everybody, you know,
you've been doing something for 50 years and someone says that's wrong, you know, you're going to get defensive about it.
But I mean, if someone's like, hey, you know, I'm going to use the DH in the National League, there's people that lose their mind over that. But you know something? Take a step back and just say, if this is how this guy has his fun, so be it. You know, again, he can't get into a tournament and do that with other people. But if he's sitting in his house, in his basement, and he's playing and he's having fun, does it matter what he's doing? It really doesn't. And he wants to share that. And I love how some people really do get creative, like with stuff. There was one time PJ was doing a game, and I forget what hockey game it was, but he was taking, I think, a couple of teams from the past and then adding like a modern player to that team. So, for example,
I've seen people do that before,
he'd take like the 71 Blackhawks, but add like Patrick Kane or something like that. And I forget what he was doing. So he called it a replay with a twist. So every team got to add one superstar from a different era to the team. That was kind of cool, I thought. It really was, because that's what I'm doing when I put Bobby Orr on the Philadelphia Blazers in the WHA. That would never happen. It's impossible. But you know something? That's a fun what if. You know, to see what would happen with Bobby Orr and that team, you know? And that's the fun of it. So, you know, people play to have fun their own way, and just let them have their fun, you know, and just support people for doing what they want to do. And, you know, if that helps them make their team win and they're happy, then good. good for them, whatever, that's what's making them fun. When I put all those Russians on the Bruins in 74, still didn't get us over the hump. In fact, I ended up benching a couple of them because they really started to play poorly. But it still was fun. It's like, what would happen if the Bruins took the chance on some Russians in 74 and put them on the team? It just made for a fun, what if or what could have happened, and again, none of it's real and none of it hurts anything. But it's just kind of fun. So anyway, go ahead.
As you said, as someone says, it's all fictional once you take the rubber bands off anyway.
Yeah. Yep, you say that all the time. Once the rubber bands come off, once that first roll of the dice happens, reality's out the window. And like you say and other people say, if you want to see exact results, go to YouTube and watch the game. Don't play it because you're not going to get the same results. If you do, that's kind of neat when it happens, but,
It's very much, like a giant potluck dinner. You never know what someone's going to bring. I sat there one night this week and read someone on the Strat fan forum. He haven't finished it yet, but in the years that he owned, took the worst from the merger, the NFL-AFL merger in 1970. So whatever seasons he had, it doesn't mean that those seasons were from the 60s or earlier than that. Whatever he owned. He didn't do Tampa or Seattle or anyone that came after that. But instead of doing the best of franchise, he picked the worst year that he owned for that franchise. So there were some teams that might have gone 6-10 or 4-12 or whatever that had some talent, but all you're playing is other bad teams. And it was interesting to see, who could excel from that with that schedule and who really just stunk up the joint because here's your one chance. Because, you came into this and you like playing the bad teams. Mm-hmm. Not that everyone plays nothing but championship level teams all the time, but, you really enjoy doing the 9-win Winnipeg Jets or that. And again, people watch. It's like with any other potluck. It's just because it's not the most popular thing in the world. It's not Moxie, but you might have brought in the old Hires root beer as opposed to the A&W or whatever it is.
It's something that's different.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, something that's different,
refreshing is kind of fun. Yep.
Right. So and
who was it? Ed Klingenberger. We've had him on the show, Ed Klingenberger, over on Board Ball. He's doing a project, which is interesting. I think it's a baseball project where he's taken the worst teams from different franchises. And I forget how many franchises he has. But he's playing like the worst Mets team, the worst Rangers team, the worst Red Sox team, whatever he's doing. And what he's doing is that if you win the game, you're out. If you lose, you advance. So he's trying to find the biggest loser by having the loser advance. And it was like, that really never crossed my mind, is to take a loser's bracket, because I like playing bad teams.
Everyone plays things differently, and I think that is to the community's strength.
I like that
we all don't
idea.
Play the same way.
And that's something I might have to do, is find some of the worst teams I got and have them play, and the loser advances. Let's see who the worst team is that I can dig up and play. That's just kind of fun. So anyway, those are some of the things going on with the podcast. And again, if you have any suggestions, always please let us know. Let us know if you'd like to see a different segment or maybe like a monthly feature on the podcast or something like that. Just again, it's a community show, and we want to, make sure that the community is well represented here on the show. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on our individual channels, our individual YouTube and Twitch channels for a minute. Mm-hmm. I seem to have kind of found this niche playing these hockey games on the tabletop with goalies that have played one game. And it's talking about bringing something different to the table. It's been fun, and I get to bring some people onto the table and show the card off that no one's probably ever played. Let's face it. How many people have played Ron Lustell? And I probably, until you brought him up, I had no idea who he was. I didn't know who he was either. And he was 18 years old, and he got into a game. Good for him. and he got lit up in that game, but he was there. He was in the show. Good for him. And so every season now that I own, especially with Hockey Bones, because App I don't think will card a goalie that played just one game. Sometimes, but mostly not. So Hockey Bones is going to be my game where I'm going to pull out these guys that have played one game. And I'm going to, give them their time to shine. And people seem to like that. We were all rooting for Ron, and he got the win. Somehow he got the win in that game. And so there's a whole bunch of other goalies that I'm going to do that with too. So that's like I say, everyone has their own way of playing. So for me, finding the one game played goalie and playing them is it's just been fun. It's really been fun. The other thing, speaking of one game goalies, there was one goalie for the Edmonton Oilers, and I just looked it up. He filled in for Ranford. Ranford gave up 2 goals in like 39 seconds. And they yanked him. And the Oilers put in this guy. His name was Wayne Cowley. And this is 93-94, the season I just got. The next year, 94-95, he was one of the starting goalies for the Worcester Ice Cats expansion team. And that's the team that I had tickets to. So I remember this guy fondly, that he played a ton of games for the Worcester Ice Cats. His partner for the Ice Cats that season was a player named Les Kuntar, whose son is now playing juniors, and I broadcasted his son's games up in New Hampshire. So that's been kind of, and I talked to him about his dad too for the game one time. Les Kuntar played a handful of games in 93-94 for the Montreal Canadiens. Your Montreal Canadiens. So yes. I'm going to have an Ice Cats reunion game in 93-94 and have Les Kuntal play Wayne Cowley. So it's going to be Oilers and Canadiens 93-94 and have an Ice Cats reunion game.
Well, Patrick Waugh go to Mike Corey and say, I'm never playing for this team again.
I don't know if Waugh was the goalie. Was he the goalie 93-94?
Yes, it was 95-96, I think, when he walked out.
Okay. So, so this must...
It was after the move to Colorado.
So there was a couple games...
Quebec,
a couple games that Kuntar played, and I think there was another. Was it Rasico or Shabbat or something? Was the third goalie? I forget.
Oh, Red Light Rasico, yeah.
I forget now. But anyway, so that's another game we're going to play. So I'm going to have an Ice Cats reunion between the two goalies that would play for the Ice Cats, and that might be kind of fun. Also, you got me kind of fixed on the whole Wayne Gretzky card from 81-82. And so I looked that up, and holy cow!
So let me explain that, because I did a mailbag, on my channel and so it came up with Project That Busted or something like that, and I brought up 81-82 because that's Gretzky's 215-point season, and probably the best of those Islander teams, and so I was about halfway through it, and Gretzky was way underperforming, and I sat there one day and looked at the Strat fan form, which I know is kind of tricky because you have to have a real email address and all that. And turns out that there were some goalies for Vancouver and the Kings that were overcarded. Now, stuff was even done on computer then, so it might have been the wrong line or whatever, however Strat was getting that fed. And so they were well over what they should be doing. And it's tough when you're Edmonton because you're playing 16 games against those two teams. You're playing nearly a quarter of your schedule against them. And so that was one thing. And the other was that if you look at Gretzky's card in Stratomatic, it's good, but it's not great. Now, they'd only been doing cards 3 or 4 years at that point. So, one of the things, talk about, the extremes and the anomalies, and you figure this out as you go along. And I knew that Gretzky was getting 1.5 points a game when he should be getting about 3 points a game. And he certainly was never going to get the 90 goals that he should have had, or at least a chance to get at. So one of the things that we were talking about yesterday, and you know what? I quick simmed that season in Strat in about 4 minutes. I quick simmed it while you and I were chatting yesterday, and Gretzky finished 20 goals below where he should have. He still has 71 goals. I mean, but his shooting percentage that year was nearly 25%, which is very hard to replicate. Now, we went through some other more modern cards with people who could score, and yes, you can get it right, but they didn't get that one quite right. And so I quick simmed it. Edmonton was fantastic in the overall scheme of things. The team played quite well, but we also did a quick sim with Action PC, and Gretzky was spot on. I think he was off by 2 points.
Yeah, it was really close.
So be kind of curious. I think one of the things that you wanted to pursue with Gretzky is because he's off the charts, just off the charts. How does a game engine, especially a cards and dice game, handle that? How do you get?
When I went through them
close?
last night, I was on and I was talking about the APA rare plays, and then I said, let's take a look at Gretzky's card here in APA and Hockey Bones. Holy cow! The entire team, the entire Edmonton team, was nuts. The ratings are absolutely nuts. I don't know how you lose a game. I mean, seriously, it was crazy. So I'm going to be playing some Gretzky games just to kind of get a feel like how good he was on the tabletop.
I mean, it is. He's amazing to begin with, but yeah, just because he literally broke the mold. And if you look back, I mean, the expectations of him. I mean, as a kid, he's doing photo shoots with Gordie Howe.
Yeah, right.
As an 8-9-year-old kid, can you imagine the pressure? I mean, of doing that. Here you go. Here's the next one. It's like when Tiger Woods was on the Mike Douglas show at 3.
It's kind of driving me nuts what I'm seeing with this kid from Chicago. What's his name? The new kid there.
Oh,
Bedard.
He kind of slowed down because he broke his jaw.
Yeah, but I see people giving him crap all the time on Facebook. Even some of my friends was like, "Oh, only 1,900 more points to go to catch Gretzky." I'm like, dude, he's a young kid. It's his first year. Why are you saying stupid stuff like this? Let him pan out. Maybe he pans out. Maybe he doesn't. But
he seems to be as advertised so far when he plays.
He does seem to be as advertised, and I'm hoping that he's as good as he is because the NHL needs players like that. But all these just wet blankets coming in and just throwing the wet blanket out. It's like, oh, yeah, well, he hasn't scored in 3 games. Gretzky didn't do that. It's like, just let it go. Really, just get off the guy's back. Let him do his thing. He hasn't even been in the league a full season yet. Just, come on.
That should be a fun card.
Yeah.
So should Austin Matthews.
Oh, jeepers, yeah, they're doing well.
So anyway.
So the last thing with my channel, then I'll let you kind of take over with your channel, is I've been so dang busy. With work and stuff, I haven't had a chance to really sit up and play anything, and I've been really liking the cards and dice, especially the hockey. So I haven't been able to play much, but I've been doing some chats, especially late at night or maybe early at night before work, and I've been enjoying those. I get a chance to say hi to some people, tell people what's going on. If something comes into my mind, I can kind of get it off my chest and see what other people are thinking. So I've been enjoying the little chats. I try to keep them between 30 minutes and an hour, usually, depending on how many people show up and which way the chat goes. But those have been really fun to do. So I'll probably keep doing some of those on my channel. So I'll alternate between games and chats. Those have been kind of fun. And the last thing is I finally put out the word. I need to find I need to find some hockey software that'll keep track of my stats. Because I would love to, like I say, I'm playing my Hockey Bones 92-93 Bruins, and I've kind of stopped that. But boy, if I had a stat program that I could just go in and say, okay, here's how many goals everybody got, and it would keep my stats for the team, I need that. And I haven't found anything like that. And I know that baseball and basketball have it. Even football's got the helper. No one has a hockey helper that I can see. The Stratomatic does have the utility. It's just real clunky to do. It really is.
It's not meant as a general stat keeper. It's meant to play the game.
But, I mean, I need someone that knows a little bit about hockey that I could go in and say, okay, look, I want to put in, the Bruins played the Kings. Here's who got the Bruins goals and assists. Here's how many shots on net for the goalie. Calculate, my Bruins team, put on a spreadsheet or put on whatever it is. Well, spit it out. Spit out all my stats, And maybe I can go into the game and click on how many goals they got, because I've tried to manually do it, and by the time you get 15 games in and you're sitting there and you're tired and you're like, okay, this guy's got 15 goals. He got 2, so I'm going to go in and put in 2. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did I put the 2 in or not? Did he have 15 or did he have 17? Inevitably, when I manually do it, I screw it up. So I need something I can just hit a button and click on it, or put in his goals for the game and then give him a total. So I'm trying to find somebody that can either write some software or a really good Excel macro or something. And I know a lot of people in the community would be interested in it too. Mm-hmm. So I've been looking at someone. Now, what would, the website I use for my hockey league, my actual hockey leagues, is ideal for it. It's just I don't want to pay $25 or $50 a month for my my replays. You know what I mean? I'd rather spend $50 once on a software program and then get to use it forever. So that's the only reason. It is perfect. You can put in the schedule, you can put in your teams, you put in the goals, and it spits out everything you want. You know, this website is fantastic. It just would be expensive if you were trying to do a replay. It really would. But anyway, so I'm looking for a software developer or somebody that can create some kind of hockey stat. So that's what's been going on over on my channel. So on yours, so not only what are you doing, but what's coming? What are some of the things that you're going to want to do on your channel?
I have no idea.
All right, folks, that's the show.
The bread and butter is the baseball replay, and doesn't get much more planned than that. I did a mailbag the other day that went really well. Mm-hmm. And so that's always fun. Don't do those live, but read your questions and just kind of improvise the answers to that. And been doing some writing, and so I'm due to do another writing chat about that. But primarily, it's the channel is for the baseball replay of the year and other things. And I'm always interested to see what games come up. And at the end of May, we'll do the Indy 500 again. And always interested to see what people suggest. I mean, one of the things that topics comes up is, why don't you do football? And I don't really like football. And so it makes it hard to do football when you're just doing it for you guys. And so primarily it's that, but you just never know. I did a Google or YouTube search for myself. I have no idea why. I know what I've done. And the interview show I was doing 4 or 5 years ago popped up. I'd forgotten who I interviewed. I interviewed somebody by the name of Dave Gardner. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, he played for the Seahawks.
He was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, as a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. He played with his brother Paul. Not that one. So that was, always interesting to do that. We no longer have the 24-hour embargo as far as Twitch and YouTube are concerned. In fact, you can technically stream to both.
Oh, nice.
And not be penalized. The problem is that technological-wise, I really can't do both because I can only monitor the chat on one. And the services that allow you to stream on both, A, you got to pay for, and B, only allow you to do it at 720p. And I'm doing it at 1080p. And so that's why we haven't done the crossing of the streams as far as that. But the YouTube stuff now goes up same day. And as soon as it's processed, it's live. So that's probably the biggest thing, the writing stuff. And I really wish there was an easy way. Maybe this is something in one of those things that you and I have talked about, where there are some really good card and dice games and really good Excel games that I enjoy playing offline. But no one wants to sit and watch me type stuff onto a screen. You can at least write stuff down and that, and so you're not trying to talk with your mouth full. Some of that stuff. Because some of the things that I go, people would enjoy this. They wouldn't necessarily enjoy watching it for an hour and a half, or because it takes me longer to play these ththings. But as far as, I feel bad. We show off computer games, and it's great and all that, and you do a good job showing off. You got the setup for the bones and the APA and the cards. But, a game you got me regular season basketball for Christmas, and I enjoy it. I really did. But it would be a nightmare to stream. So that sort of thing. How do I get around being able to do that? Because I can't put a camera over my head and write stuff down. And I got to type it on the screen. And who wants to watch that? Yeah. Who's going to be patient enough to watch that for more than 2 or 3?
Well, you could play the basic mode of regular season basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have to keep all the stats if you're just kind of playing the basic mode, keeping score.
Yeah. So I guess that sort of thing. Okay. But it's the primary. It's 3 baseball games a week. There might be something else thrown in. Do the show with you and whatever. So
okay.
The channel will be 6 in August. Or 7.
Wow.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Someone was telling me on Twitch today that their auto sub didn't work, so they had to do it, and that was going to be their 48th straight month, which means I've been doing it on Twitch for 4 years.
Wow, maybe. Yeah.
Which caught me off guard. Like, really? So,
yeah, I remember when you switched over. I don't know how long ago it was, but
yeah,
it was.
So I can technically do both now, but again, it's a case of I can only watch the chat on one. And now, because there's a difference in lag between YouTube and Twitch is pretty much instantaneous.
Yeah.
So that's that for that.
Well, all right. Well, should we wrap up here? Show 216. All right, here we go. So you've been listening to the Digital to Dice podcast, episode 216, state of the podcast, and also what's going on our individual channels. We'll have the 3 stars return next week when we get back to a more normal of a show. Ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. All righty, that's that. I got to pack up and get ready to head to the rink. I got more games tonight.
And start your playoffs tonight, right?
No, playoffs tomorrow at 1. So tonight I get to go and do a regular game. Tomorrow I'm back at 1 for playoffs. So it's going to be wake up and just go back. And, yeah.
It should be exciting, and those are good teams.
Yeah, the playoffs should be really fun. And the home team should do quite well in round 1. So we'll see how that goes. But all right, anyway, I'm Dave.
I'm Ron.
And we'll talk to everyone later.
Good night, Springfield. Bye-bye.